I'm Dr. Gayla Gorman, and today I'm going to show you how to turn the tables on addiction. So if you or someone you care about struggles to stop a compulsive behavior, or stops only to relapse continually, or maybe wonders whether the behavior is actually an addiction at all, you're in the right place. Again, I'm Dr. Gayla Gorman. I'm the co-creator of RecoverYes.com. The programs and services at RecoverYes.com are designed to help you beat addiction and make recovery resilient. What qualifies us to talk to you about addiction and the havoc it wreaks on families? We've been there. We know what you're dealing with and have used the very information we're going to reveal to you here to turn the tables on addiction in our own lives. It's my privilege to bring you the latest and greatest discoveries that make recovery quick, easy, and yes, even fun. Here's a bit more about myself and my partner, Charlie Frangos. And there's even more backstory if you visit the About Us page at RecoverYes.com. When most people are asked what it takes to recover from addiction, their answer might begin and end with getting sober, although this can take endless forms. But that's not the real problem where addiction is concerned. What is the real problem? And what must be addressed to turn the tables on addiction? Well, the truth be told, it's not difficult to get sober. In fact, if we define recovery as sobriety, you can stop your compulsive behavior, think addiction, and you're recovered, right? You're sober. You can be sober and recovered for 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years, or a lifetime. The truth is that getting sober is not the hard part. The hard part is preventing relapse and maintaining sobriety. Managing everything that leads to relapse is your real problem. In order to prevent relapse, recovery needs to be resilient. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal to you the insider secrets, the keys that make recovery truly resilient. If you're like most people struggling with compulsive behavior, whether it's escalated to addiction or not, you have probably tried to quit and found yourself relapsing, possibly even after an extended period of abstinence. What would life be like for you if the fear of relapsing yet again were gone? I imagine you've had the feeling that there's something you're missing that would make the possibility of relapse beyond remote. I'm going to share with you what that something is. With this something, recovery becomes resilient. First, let's address one of the pivotal questions related to addiction, and that is whether addiction is a disease, a symptom, or a choice. We're here to tell you that it's all three. And it's important that you embrace this truth so that your recovery plan is comprehensive. Addiction is a disease. Any disease is simply a state of dis-ease. Certainly, addiction can be thought of in this way, right? The important thing to remember, though, is that it's a state of being, and any state can be moved through. We don't believe that addiction is an incurable state of being in dis-ease. It can be helpful, though, in early recovery to think of addiction as a disease. Addiction is accompanied by a tremendous amount of shame. For the addict, that shame begins to lift as they accept that they're a sick person trying to get well, rather than believing they're a bad person trying to be good. It's been proven that shame is not a motivator. So anything that helps to unravel the binds of the toxic shame will support recovery. Beyond the disease, or underlying it, is a symptom. This is where we start to make recovery resilient. We believe that addiction is just a symptom of an underlying cause, that it's a temporary and reversible malfunction of the brain. Treat and heal the underlying cause and the symptom goes away. Most addiction recovery programs focus so much on sobriety that there's little emphasis placed on the symptom. They don't address the underlying cause. And without that underlying cause being addressed, addiction is just lying dormant. All it takes is one bad day where life kicks us in the knees and we return to our tried and true coping mechanism that is our addiction. That leaves us to address addiction as a choice. This model is based on the common belief that an addict wakes up in the morning and chooses to abuse their substance or behavior, not even considering the consequences. There is an element of truth here, but it's just not that simple. We definitely believe in choice because without choice there is no recovery. If you can't make a choice to do something different, then recovery is not possible. And we most certainly believe that recovery is possible. The way non-addicts think of choice is not how it happens for an addict, though. The decision-making part of the brain for an addict has been taken offline, literally. You may be able to relate to this experience. In certain circumstances, you may have made a decision that made absolutely no logical sense. Under times of extreme stress, and sometimes we've become so conditioned to the stress that we aren't even aware of it. Decisions are not being made with the logical part of our brains. Decisions are made instantaneously using what scientists refer to as the fight or flight response. Decisions are made with only one thing in mind: survival. For addicts, the brain has been rearranged to believe that continuing with the addictive behavior or substance is the only way to survive. So addicts don't have much choice, and yet we have to be able to make choices in order to recover. So the addict does have some choice in the matter. Is addiction a disease, symptom, or choice? Yes, yes, and yes. Let me share a story with you. To protect his anonymity, I'm going to call him Joe. So Joe's in his mid-20s, but he could just as well be in his mid-30s, 40s, or 50s. Joe's survived a lot of disappointment and even abuse in his life. The only thing that brought him some relief from the torment of his dark thoughts and memories was his addiction. It didn't matter that the relief was short-lived. Any relief was welcome. Unfortunately, the consequences of Joe's behavior started to mount, and while he had managed to stop the behavior on several occasions, once for several months even, relapse was an unwelcome friend. Joe felt hopeless and had even contemplated suicide as what he imagined was the only way to bring lasting relief. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So if you're watching this right now and you have any thoughts that suicide might be a way out of the pain that you're feeling, just know that there are lots of other escape hatches. Suicide is not the answer. Pause your computer, pick up the phone, and ask for help. Call 911 if you don't think you have anyone else to turn to. This is one of the most difficult things for addicts to do. Addiction thrives in isolation. You need to cut off its fuel supply. Call for help. Let me reiterate. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. We do understand that the hopelessness that accompanies addiction doesn't feel temporary. We get it. A permanent solution can sound pretty appealing. In fact, suicide was the 10th leading cause of death in 2012 and was the only cause of death in the top 10 that increased in percentage year over year from 2011. Even if you haven't reached the point of wanting to end it all, the life of an addict is riddled with momentary highs followed by lows that leave you wondering if life can get much worse. Most addicts have a recurring thought between highs: surely there must be more to life than this. Don't become a statistic. Actually, scratch that. We want you to become a statistic, one of the success stories like Joe. So let's get back to Joe. What happened to Joe? Well, Joe found his way to a holistic addiction recovery program that helped him turn his life around. The program provided all the elements that have been proven to increase the odds of sustaining recovery, from 10 to 90%, effectively turning the tables on addiction. For Joe and everyone else that takes advantage of this type of program, the risk of relapse dwindles with each passing month. Joe's recovery became resilient. Life's challenges no longer launch the ritual that led to the addictive behavior. Now, this is recovery. So what is holistic addiction recovery? Well, holistic addiction recovery incorporates a body, mind, and spirit approach. Where body is concerned, we're going to be focused on the physical component of addiction. There definitely are physical components of addiction, along with physical deterioration that has probably occurred. The cravings in early recovery can be mitigated substantially, if not eliminated, just by using nutrition and exercise appropriately. We also recommend amino acid therapy and supplementation. Where the mind is concerned, we're going to increase our knowledge and understanding of addiction and take that knowledge to the point of increasing awareness. With awareness, we develop a gap, and that gap is what allows us to feel a feeling, feel like we want to go back to our old coping mechanism, and yet have choice to do something different in the moment. In most cases, this is going to require that we dig deep and uncover those traumas that we've buried. They are what is fueling the addictive behavior. And then there's spirit. We won't get too deep into the differentiation between spirituality and religion, but just know that spirit has very little to do with religion. Religion is community and culture. For some, religion is a big part of who they are in the world. Without it, they would not be able to lead the full and fulfilling life we strive for. At RecoveryYes.com, we welcome all religious and spiritual beliefs. But for us, spirit underlies all of this. It's a deep connection, a knowingness that we're part of something greater than ourselves. We know we're never really alone. There needs to be meaning and purpose in life to lift the feeling of hopelessness that often accompanies addiction. In early recovery, it makes sense to focus on sobriety and take it one day at a time. The only real goal is not engaging in the addictive behavior today. That quickly needs to give way to creating a full and fulfilling life. Having meaning and purpose in life makes life worth living. I can't tell you how many addicts we talk to that are well down the road to recovery, many years sober, and are depressed and often suicidal. Life feels empty and void of any meaning and purpose. Even in recovery, they're thinking, there's got to be more to life than this. It's what we hear over and over again, and that's why this holistic approach to addiction recovery is so important. So why do 90% of addiction treatment programs fail? Well, as you may have gathered from the previous slide, addiction treatment programs rarely take a comprehensive body, mind, spirit approach to addiction recovery. And without that, as I mentioned earlier, addiction just lies dormant, waiting for you to have a weak moment so that rational decision-making can be taken offline momentarily, just long enough to get the addiction ritual started again. Remember, we're turning the tables on addiction. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So how do we plan for failure? We resist the wholesale life changes that are going to be required by this holistic approach to addiction recovery. We think we can go it alone, so we're lacking the support we need. And it's not just any support, it's the right kind of support. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Most importantly, though, there's no monitoring or accountability built in. This is the real key that's going to help you actually create a resilient recovery. And so what does resilient recovery feel like? Well, for starters, life doesn't feel like an endless struggle. You wake up with enthusiasm. The fear that you're one bad day away from relapse is replaced with curiosity for what the day has in store. Emotional upsets are met with new skills that quickly dissolve anger and frustration. And when overwhelm sets in, as it does for all of us, recovery tools are handy and you know just what to do with them. In other words, your risk of relapse is significantly reduced, your relationships are healthy and supportive, and all of that leads to a full and fulfilling life. Are you starting to see how to turn the tables on addiction? Well, there's one more insider secret that is the golden key to turning the tables on addiction. It's commonly referred to as monitoring. But in order to experience the full and fulfilling life that assures lasting recovery, the monitoring program is going to include much more than just random drug testing. It's going to be the holistic addiction recovery program that we referred to earlier. How do we know that this type of program increases the odds for recovery success? There's a lot of data available because professionals use this type of program, and their licensing boards keep very good records. When professionals have compromised their ability to work due to an addiction, their license is regularly suspended. They're often ordered into treatment as a condition of reinstating their license. When they leave an addiction treatment facility, they're required to continue in a monitoring program as a condition of returning to work. Professionals have proven that monitoring and accountability dramatically improve the success rate for addiction treatment programs. Again, as I mentioned before, the success rate for addiction treatment programs is typically 10%. The statistics are very clear that with monitoring and the appropriate support, the success rate goes from 10 to 90%. You've got a lot at stake with your recovery, and so I have to imagine that it would pique your interest if you thought you could increase your odds from 10 to 90%. You don't have to be a gambler to appreciate the difference this could make in your life. And so a comprehensive addiction monitoring program is going to include support in the form of specialized mentoring and coaching, recovery education and training, accountability, and regular communication with stakeholders. Stakeholders are the people that have a vested interest in helping the addict recover. So stakeholders would be parents, the spouse, the children, the siblings, even the therapist. Everybody who has an interest in seeing the person get better is a stakeholder. We want to make sure everybody is on the same page and becomes part of the solution, believing in the person and their recovery. Of course, random substance testing is typically a component of monitoring programs. With substance abuse, it's fairly easy to test for compliance. But believe me when I tell you that addiction does not stop at substance abuse. With compulsive behaviors, drug testing may not be necessary or even helpful. And that makes a really robust monitoring program even more important, actually critical. So we've developed a program called the Reach Yes Resilient Recovery Addiction Monitoring Program. When you come into the program, you're a member of the Recovery Yes community, and membership has its privileges. We create a customized recovery blueprint to address the specific issues and needs of each member. There's daily recovery education and skill building. Regular mentoring and coaching with professionals who specialize in helping people beat addiction, along with facilitated group meetings, provides a safety net of support. There's a portal that's specifically designed to keep the stakeholders informed and involved. And of course, random substance testing is also an option. The best part, you don't have to leave home or your job to reap the rewards of this program. If you have a computer, smartphone, and are open to doing things differently in your life, you have everything you need to take advantage of what the Reach Yes program has to offer. So here's how to get started. There's a link at the bottom of the screen and also in the description section if you're watching this video on YouTube. Go to www.recoveryes.com/reachfaqs. That's ReachFAQs. We've answered our most frequently asked questions about the program for you there. So remember that recovery really has to be your number one priority. If you continue doing the same thing expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity. Imagine if you could take back control of your life. If the last time you engaged in your compulsive behavior really was the last time. It can be. We've developed this program to make it easy and convenient to make recovery resilient. Our motto is that recovery can be quick, easy, and even fun. We've designed that into our programs. Recovery should not have to be a full-time job. The whole idea is that you can have a full and fulfilling life in recovery. And so we've worked to help make that happen for you. One more thing. If you want to beat addiction, you need a well-equipped recovery tool chest. Would you like to know what we think should be in that tool chest, or how the one you're already working with stacks up? At the bottom of the Reach FAQs page, there's a link to take our recovery tools assessment. To find out how your recovery tool chest stacks up, you can take this assessment as the person with the compulsive behavior or as someone who has a loved one in their life that's suspected of having a problem that's escalated to addiction. The assessment is going to, in just a few short moments, tell you where your weaknesses are. It's those areas that addiction is going to exploit. Those areas are where you're prone to experience relapse. If you'd like to go straight to the assessment, it's at www.recoveryes.com/toolsassessment. So we just want to thank you again for joining us as we turn the tables on addiction. And hop on over to recoveryes.com right now and find out more about what the insiders consider to be the golden key to making recovery resilient. At recoveryes.com, you're supported to recover your ethereal self. That's the you that's happy, healthy, whole, and fulfilled. There's no time like the present. You have nothing to lose but the shame and disappointment that accompanies repeated relapse. You can recover. We can help.